You're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Now that's the talk. Now that's the talking about yourself bit done, Jenny. And let's get into this cricket discussion because I chose some topics to talk about and discuss. That's the whole point of a cricket discussion. You talk about topics and you discuss. So the first one, we've already talked about it a lot. It's obviously women's cricket. And it's come leaps and bounds over the years, as you said, Jenny. And many young girls all over the world are taking part in cricket and playing cricket. You've seen that on your tour and you've highlighted that to us today. And many people watching women's cricket internationally now, all around the world. The T20 World Cup final in Australia in 2020, Australia and India had 86,000 people watch that final. And that was a watershed moment in the women's game, knowing that people are committed to women's cricket and want it to do well. And we're seeing very talented and skilled players from all the world that very good cricketers. They've got very good skills with bat and ball and in the field. And you mentioned it, the Women's Premier League, the Women's Big Bash, the Women's 100. These leagues are popping up around the world to give players from full member countries, but also associate nations, the opportunity to earn money, but also to travel the world and experience a different culture. And that's what cricket does. You tour the world and you experience new places. But obviously it faces many challenges, women's cricket, and it's got to go through those challenges. And you've seen that on your tour, Jenny, the barriers and the challenges that many countries face, the stigma towards women's sport in general, but also women's cricket, trying to grow and develop women's cricket in not only full member countries, which they do struggle, barring Australia, England, India, but also the associate countries as well struggle big time in terms of that. Also, players' lack of security. They often play the game and they go and they never come back, which is a major problem in the women's game around the world. So there's a lot of challenges and barriers, Jenny. So since you started playing and covering women's cricket, what have been the major big changes you've witnessed in women's cricket that you've noticed over the years? And what are the areas that as a cricket community we need to improve on when it comes to the women's game?
So I've already mentioned in terms of the media, the massive shift that's happened, which is so amazing. But if I just look at myself as an English player coming from the country which invented cricket, but even in the 90s wasn't administered in a professional way. It was administered by the Women's Cricket Association, who kept it going for hundreds of years, which is absolute testament to them. But in those days, it was, if you played cricket, you did it solely for the love, and it cost you a lot of money to do that. Charlotte Edwards is a great example of someone who bestrode the amateur to professional era. When she started out, she had to buy her own blazer and pay for her own tour, and I remember there was a great fanfare across the women's cricket community because she got a Peugeot, I think it was a Peugeot 106 hatchback, an orange one, and it had emblazoned down the side, Charlotte Edwards, international cricketer, because these days everyone knows Charlotte Edwards, but in those days they didn't. Actually, I got into England juniors contention. I got into the squad because I got her out, and I didn't know who I'd got out, and she'd been playing for England for a couple of years at that point, but I didn't know who she was. And then one day, 10 years later, my friend messaged me, who is in media as well, and he said, "Oh, women's cricket's arrived. Charlotte Edwards is the answer in a Guardian crossword clue." And I was reminded of that recently when someone put online, the Matildas. There were 2 questions on the Matildas in a local pub quiz and everybody knew the answer, which is, you know, the next level, not just the awareness of the quiz setter, but the fact that the general public know the answers. So in those days, as an English player, there was no pathway to professionalism. It certainly wasn't a goal. Whereas these days, I understand that in schools now, rounders used to be the girls' sport only, offered in summer, maybe with tennis. And for those who don't know, rounders is a very simplified softball game. But now it's been taken out of the curriculum, replaced with cricket, because you can't be a professional rounders player, whereas it's an option to be a professional cricketer. And you've got all the role models, you know, they are like important. You can be a professional. Also, I know of cricket coaches who've been recruited to private girls' schools in England as a recruitment tool for that school, because parents have told the school, we will not send our daughter to your school unless you have adequate cricket coaching. Which, saying these words is just ridiculous, because to me that was always a dream, you know, I'd love to go to a school or a cricket academy or anything like that. That's what I used to dream about. I'm going to run my own cricket school one day for girls, you know, and that's actually happening now, which is, it's just incredible, the shift. And then, for example, my county, I was telling you before that Cheshire is powerhouse. We smashed Scotland one year, and now Scotland are professionals, and they're so good. I watched them play in Spain. They're insanely good, and I love that you can be a professional in Hong Kong now, or South Korea, or Japan. And what a landscape! It's just so different.
Yeah, even in Brazil.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's an incredible program there, and the leadership there is just out of this world. The leaders on the board are just brilliant. But you did ask what needs to change with women's cricket. Now, you know, of course, with the ICC mandating that countries have to develop women's cricket to be eligible for the funding, that's had a huge impact on the world game, as you can expect. And of course, we're realistic / cynical. It's just how the world is, that, you know, some people are just going to take that as a box ticking exercise. But in fact, again, it was Terry in Estonia who said to me, he's like, just have a little look out. You'll be able to see the boards who are genuine in doing this by their representation of women on the board, how many coaches there are who are women, how many umpires. And also, it's not just that, it's where the money goes, because the money is supposed to go to the women, but I've seen it in more than one country that it doesn't. And then how many opportunities the women's international team get to play overseas and also at home, because that's frequently much less of an opportunity for the women than it is the men. But also, to me, it's not just about the numbers, it's about the social structure of it, because, for example, there's that many coaching and umpiring courses you can do now, which is absolutely great. But the dropout rate for women umpires across the world would be very interesting to study quantitatively, because qualitatively, and empirically, I have met that many women who had qualified as an umpire and dropped out within 2 years because of the abuse and disrespect that they received predominantly in the men's game, and I've filled in as umpire in several countries along the way, and I've had that exact experience myself in both of the matches that I did. So it's so prevalent. And do I know the LBW law? Well, you would hope so. And do you know how to signal a wide? Well, also I would hope so. But there's that. It's just frustrating, and it just gets annoying that as a woman you already have to overcome so much perception or misperception just to get to a baseline of being included. So there's so much that still needs to be done. But it's funny because there's such a duality for me as I'm going along what I'm seeing. I'm equally and simultaneously so happy, so in awe, so inspired, so overwhelmed with women's situations and opportunities, and I'm simultaneously massively angry with what I see and frustrated, and you can see where things need to change. And before I went out on tour the first time, one of the talks that I was giving, a woman here in Adelaide who runs the Working Women's Centres, Sandra, she said to me, she's like, sport, it's the last bastion of the patriarchy. I caught up with her the other day, and we were talking about that phrase and how it very much is. And that's why, advocating for yourself and other women and allies and everything like that is just super important. But as she said, after my talk discussing what I'd found in the last 54 countries, she added, but it's also the new frontier. And it's so true. It's so exciting. Like we're just at the beginning, but already not just cricket, women's sport, it can't be ignored anymore because of the figures. It's all about money, but the women are proving that it's a financially viable thing to do, to invest in women's sport. And of course, there's been this latent demand for so many years, and women have a lot of purchasing power. So, it's literally just been a case of making it happen, and, the money will flow. So overall, I'm both optimistic and really angry all at once. But what can you do? You can just do what you can do as the next person can, and everybody just make your own change and invest in women's sport with your time and money, and it will all grow exponentially.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. It's still cricket. Nothing's changed. It's still cricket. The one thing that hasn't changed is the game. Still the same game. Bat and ball in the field, but we should include everyone from all backgrounds and all men and female to play cricket, because cricket's a game for everyone, and we shouldn't exclude people because of that. And women's cricket has a long way to go, but there's some great signs, especially here in Australia with the women's team doing what they're doing, leading the way, and you see young girls wanting to be a Lise Perry, or it's wonderful to see that, role models, and it just makes you realize that it's a worth fighting cause to champion women's sport, but also, especially in these associate countries, and you've experienced that on your tour, Jenny, is that it empowers women as well to achieve something. They come from very poor backgrounds, some countries, poverty. A lot of them don't go to school, have an education, like in Brazil. They have a program there where you can go to university and study, and many of the girls that play for Brazil are the first in their family to go to a university. So it's just remarkable what sport and cricket can do to change people's lives. And in women's cricket, it's certainly doing that for women around the world, which is fantastic. And we can't control the uncontrollables, but we can control what we can control. and that's still promoted and spruik women's cricket. And so, yeah, it's a wonderful thing. The talented cricketers, they know what they're doing. The one thing that has changed is that women are playing cricket, but the game of cricket hasn't changed itself. It's still the same game, still the 22 yards, same game, same tactics, same everything. So we should be all proud as a cricket community that, you know, we do include people of all walks of life, men and women, and people who have other disabilities and inclusion, which is fantastic. And you've certainly seen that on your side of things with the tour, Jenny, which is fantastic to see. That's why we love this game, because of all those reasons I just mentioned. So wonderful to hear your thoughts on that, Jenny, about women's cricket. And hi, everyone. Hope you enjoyed hearing Jenny and I discuss women's cricket.